Patrik, welcome back to you. Welcome to University of Maribor. We are all warmed up and can't wait to hear from you. Good
Yes.
luck, and online floors is yours.
Well, thank you. I would start, I think, just by doing a little live tour about our building, because we just moved into, after the pandemic, we moved into this restored brick building that used to be a gas. They used to do like household gas here, and now we built a whole new school space. And I think the best place at the school is this room you see here, which is just a huge room, and it's just full of student groups working here, and because we are a communication school, so we work a lot with projects, and we let students work together a lot. They solve problems. I will talk about that later, but so I thought I would just show you around. Like we have these cubes that can do that we built, but we also put the walls outside the cubes here in whiteboard material, so everybody can have projects, small project rooms and work. And here we have students sitting in groups. Hello, as you see, they're very friendly Swedish students, and here they're working on a project, and what they usually use is just computers and a whiteboard.
Can they see us now?
Yes.
Hi. How's your day going?
How's your day going? I have these ones.
It's good.
Yeah.
Really good.
And you are students of growth marketing, right?
Yes.
Yes. So these are studying growth marketing, which is a new topic. So all over here you see, groups working and sitting in problem solving. And this has been very popular design for us, because it makes students find their space. I will go down and show you some of the stuff we use in the classroom for teaching. I hope my connection doesn't break. I will reconnect if I do. Do you have a question here? Yes, you can ask questions in the chat. If it breaks, I will join again. Yes. So here's our regular classrooms. And one of the things I wanted to show you was that we have tried to make, teachers move furniture around. So everything in this room you can move around. We have wheels on the tables. And what I did was an invention I created. Was I put lines on the floor which marks where you can put the tables. So if you use the red lines, you can build a perfect circle, which is very good when you teach. Sometimes you don't need tables. And you can build a long table in the middle. And we call them learning courts. So we have instructions here for our teachers to say, you can refurnish, you can change everything around here, see what you're doing. And in that way, we can increase, in the way we teach, we need to be very dynamic. We can't just think that the students will learn one way or the other. So we have to teach them, or teach the teachers, which I do, to be inventive. I'm going to go up to the second floor now and continue the tour. You have any questions? You can write them in the chat. So basically, we are a very small school with just 300 students, and most of them, they fit into 10 classrooms and a big assembly hall. That's basically how big we are. And then we have office space and co-working. And here is our top floor. You can see it's a very modern environment in it, but it's also a very small school, and we have lots of startups and other companies working here with us. So now I arrived to my broadcasting room, so there'll be no more running around. So, is that okay? You followed around? You got a little bit of a tour? Good?
Yes, everything is fine. Very interesting.
Good. And so I'll show you a little bit about our school and talk about the creativity. I'm just going to open my resource. Let me see here. And we have tried this before, so it should work. Do you see my keynote now, right? Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so welcome. You have seen the house, and so we are a small school, and I'll talk about the school and what creativity is, and then I'll talk about a little bit how we teach adults, so how we think and approach teaching, and action-based learning and personal development. All these parts of how we think we prepare our students for the future. But I'm also going to put in a little quiz in the middle. So I thought I would test you. Anyway, so we've been around for more than 81 years, and it started as as an advertising school. It's been evening school. It's moved to different locations, but it's one of the first advertising schools, where advertising 80 years ago looked very different than today. It was more of a lot of design, graphic design, a lot of drawings, of course, illustrations. Later came photo. Later came the design, art direction and copywriting, and the ads moved from print to television, and now all the ads are on the internet. So lots of the marketing communication is now digital. So all this have changed, but we have remained. And what we think we do is we educate creatives, whatever that means, but creative people for the communication industry, and they go abroad and work. We've been 81 years in business, or 82 now. We have won Future Lines is a competition for advertising and communication in France, and we've been School of the Year there for 7 years. We have 800 industry professionals coming every year through our system and teaching, because we don't have any faculty really. We only hire external teachers, and we compete a lot in advertising competitions, which is maybe strange, but there are competitions for that. And we won a lot of awards in competing with much larger schools and universities from around the world. So our students are, by this way of measuring, if this is correct measuring, very creative and receives lots of prizes for their the innovation, design, and also, let's say, they also get prize for individual portfolios. That means that they are, creative. They are creative people, and they get more like a portfolio prize. So then we win this little lion here, and this is the way the competition works. Is basically whose students gets nominated the most, and we got our students are always at the top of these competitions. And this is one. It's in Swedish. I'm sorry about that, but this is the one that we won. We won a Grand Prix, which basically the innovation was that how are we gonna? It was a clothing brand that wanted innovation, so they printed a text on a gym T-shirt, because they realized that new beginners in the beginning they need instructions how to use the gym, but as they get better, they don't need it anymore. So then they printed the gym instructions on the actual T-shirt, but with a thing that disappeared after a month. So basically, in the beginning, you could take a sneak peek on your arm like this and say, "Oh," and then so for that, this doesn't exist. But this was the way that innovation works in our teaching. That we get them to solve really difficult problems and come up with innovative, futuristic ideas, and so that's how they compete. Today, this is our school from the outside. We're a vocational school. We're not a university, and this is a classification. We're also one of the few schools in Sweden that is privately owned, and we charge money for education, which is kind of interesting, because the whole of Sweden, I guess that's in Slovenia as well, but in the whole of Sweden, it's education is free, university is free, everything is free, but then there's us, and we charge money. But you can actually get student loans to cover the fee, and this makes it a bit special. I don't know, but I've been teaching in universities and other places, and I think that when people pay, when students pay, they become extremely demanding customers. So for us, we have to be really on top of everything we do, because every day we hear them say, "But we paid a lot of money for this education. Well, why don't we get more?" So we have this discussion, but so far, the reason why we are good, or why we attract students still, I will talk about. But we have communication programs that are 1 year: public relations, strategic communication, digital design, production management, and growth marketing. Growth marketing is the newest program. It started to appear in job ads for maybe 2-3 years ago. It didn't exist before. It's basically using data and data analysis to then target and create communication campaigns. So you grow organically, or you grow your digital following by using a lot of different methods, lots of analysis methods. So it's very hands-on, practical. It's like a mix between an economy and the marketing and a creative education. And then we have 2-year programs: communication design and art direction. Those are more handicraft. Those are really like design, typography, animation, copywriting in terms of like more down to earth handwriting stuff. And then we have 6 months programs. One is called advanced advertising, which is a portfolio program, and Berghs bachelors. It's you start 1 term in Sweden and then you go abroad. But we also have French and Italian students coming here doing half a year in either of the international programs, because we are more of a creative school. So if you want to go into the industry, you want to go, because we get out of our students, 95% get employment within 6 months, and I think that's our biggest selling point. You go here to this school to get a job in the industry, because we're building so many contacts between the industry and since we don't have teachers, we build contact between the industry and the school and the students, and that's why they get that's why they pay money, because maybe they have gone to university and know a lot and have a basic economic education or an education in any other field, but when they go here to get a job, and we help them with that, because we are very directed towards, I would tell our creative challenges and our academic or student our course challenges are very much directed towards reality. We make them, so when they go, often when I interview students in exit interviews or a few years after, they say, well, the transition between going to our school, Berghs, and working is seamless. It's the way they work here and study is the same way they work at companies when they get out, which means that's why they're highly employable. You don't need to retrain our students. You can put them straight to work and they will understand more or less what the work is like.
Sorry, yes.
You see the word creativity. Thank you. So yes, I was when Miro asked me, I was like, "Oh, creativity. What is that?" And I always start every lecture I do. When we have a talk, it's like, let's agree on what this means. So I just Googled it basically, and to see what is creativity, because we got to talk about the same thing, and there are 2 different dictionaries. The ability to produce original and unusual ideas, or to make something new or imaginative. But yeah, that's I can see that. And then the other one was called the use of imagination or original ideas to create something, or inventiveness. So I think that kind of sums it up, what creativity is. And then what we can say is creativity a skill? And then how do we teach students that skill, and why do we teach students creativity skill? Is it if you look at most of the schedules, or most of probably of your curriculum or your offerings, is there a creativity program? Probably not. If there are business programs and law programs and engineering programs and other kind of traditional university programs, but is there really a creativity thing? Well, no, part of it, of course, if you need to be innovative in this one, but the way the skills part is very interesting to us, because we think that skills are something that we need to train. A skill is like a muscle, and it's as important to train, your creativity skills as it is to train, your formal knowledge or practice of anything. Like, if you're going to design something, you need to design a poster or write something good. But if you want to win a case in a court, if you're a lawyer, well, you also need to be creative because you need to just think about unusual and new ways of solving difficult problems. But I looked at some of the, if you look at, here's from McKinsey, they did a lot of foundational skills that citizens need. I mean, our students, when they go out to work, to solve the problems of today, of that we face today, and you know, as reality is very complex and difficult today, and it doesn't get easier, you know, in a sense. You know, you have a COP27 going on in Egypt about environmental stuff, and then you have, you know, and then you have a war in Ukraine on the other side, and you know, in the middle of this are us people. We're trying to educate and create people who is going to solve all these problems that, you know, I'm old now, that we have left for others. You know, for my kids, I'm leaving a world in a very more complex world maybe than before. So what skills do we need? So all these skills are needed. And the question is, if we are an educational institution, how can we work with these skills? How important are they? And do we need to teach them? You know, we don't have them on the curriculum either, but we try to incorporate them in the way we work so that a lot of our students get all these skills. And I don't know if you heard about it, but I'm going to show you a little example of how we're going to work. There's a new international initiative. It's called the Inner Development Goals. You all know the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I'm sure you do. You know, and no poverty, except you know that the UN have successfully implemented actually. But the problem is, until 2030, we won't reach them. I'm sorry to say, but we won't get there because and then a lot of academics, universities from all over the world, but it started in Sweden, and companies decided, say, okay, we need to change ourselves. We need to develop our own inner skills, the human skills. So they have made the same idea of categorizing the human skills that we need to be able, you know, we need to teach them. We also need to change ourselves. And they have come up with 5 categories: being, thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting. And these are skills that they think we need to train. We need to educate and train and use and work with these skills. And especially if we work in universities and teach the future generations, they need to be so much better on this, because otherwise, how are they going to solve the problems? How are they going to, thrive in their world and create better generation or better future for their kids and so forth? So, and this, I'll show you, this is a new initiative. It's called the Inner Development Goals, and you can find it at innerdevelopmentgoals.org. And they have started with a lot of, I mean, they have, we're not an academic, you're an academic school, but they have the professors from Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Yale, you name it, and Oxford, Cambridge. They have the top academic teams have helped with this and are driving this they started like an NGO creating this. So I think you should check it out, because I think it's something that could be like we teach the SDGs in our teaching. We teach them about sustainable goals. I think most companies do, but now we're also trying to see if we can talk about these things. Anyway, so that's what I mean. Creativity is also on this list on 5 under acting. Creativity is a skill. Creativity is something we need to train, and creativity is something that our students will need in able to get a job, thrive, change the world, you name it. So I thought a little bit of let's talk about a little bit how we work now. And so one of the things that I was thinking about is how do we, when we teach. I work at Berghs, and I used to be a TV producer, and now I've been teaching a lot of courses. I've been at this school giving a course for 22 years, and I mostly teach motion design, film, TV production, storytelling. But one of the things that I learned when I came here, and I'm now the head of Teach the Teachers, and we call teaching, the science of teaching is called pedagogy. But pedagogy, if you are scholars, you probably know this better than me, but pedagogy means how to teach children. But then if we talk about how to teach adults, we need to think differently, because adults have different demands. And I would say that all our students over 18 are adults, right? So we need to think differently when we talk to our students. So here I need you to think about, I'm going to show you the principles, and think about if you feel like when you work in the university and when you teach, do you apply these principles? It's very simple. It's 4 principles. And it comes from this researcher called Knowles. I think he called Malcolm Knowles. They've done maybe 10, 15 years ago. Anyway, so one principle is like, adults need to be involved in the planning and evaluation of their instruction. That is quite interesting, that actually, and you can just think about how you feel when you are, some of you might be still in school or studying, doing a PhD program or whatever, but adults need to be involved in the planning, which means that we as educators, we need to be very transparent in how it's planned and have a dialogue with our students. We can't just say, this is the curriculum, do it. Because we will get students who are not involved and not happy. And then it has to be experience-based, which means basically students, adults, need to try things straight away and test them. Otherwise, they have no patience. I know when we teach children, we say, well, in the future, these math skills will be very useful. And our children have, for generations, believed that's the truth. But when you get an adult, you kind of see through that thing and say, no. I need to learn. I need to know exactly why this doesn't work. And they will try it. So that's something very interesting, that is the principle of how adults learn. They need to try it. And just try it yourself, think about how you feel. Do you feel like when you're learning something that you need to try it out straight away? Or are you just content reading the instruction brochure? I'm sure you just want to, you buy a bicycle, you want to put it together and try it, right? And the third one is, adults are most interested in learning subjects that have immediate relevance to their job or personal life. And that is also, they have no patience. Adults have no patience with learning. They want to know straight away. And I teach a lot of professionals here. I see our students also as adults. So we need to always tell them why our courses need to be relevant. We can't teach something. Yes, you have to understand the theory sometimes to understand the whole reality. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have to always explain again and again, almost like to children, saying, well, this is why this is important, and this is how you're going to apply it and use it straight away. And when it comes to professional education of people who are already in their work life, this is one of the most essential things, that you need to always be very clear and transparent and tell the students, this is how you're going to use this. This is how you're going to use this right away. But if you do that, you also get lots of very motivated students, because otherwise they're not motivated. And then the fourth one is like, adult learning is problem-centered. And that's something that we work a lot. We'll talk about that later. We frame everything we do so that it's every course has a problem to solve, has an assignment, has a brief, has a demand from someone to solve something, more than just reading theory and testing the theory. Because if you frame the whole thing as a problem, it just becomes much more easier and motivated for young people or young adults to learn. So this is something that you can think about. And I was just thinking about, I'll show you one example of how we do it, because one of our things, we need to make everything we do very relevant all the time to the students. So one of the things we do is we have a career day once a year, where we have 60 agencies, maybe 100 people who come here and do speed dating with our students. So there are lots of meetings. The whole day is just full of meetings, and you speed date. Every student has about 10, 15 meetings. So we have 250 students to have 10, 15 meetings, lots of meetings in a day. But since we have this, we can say, okay, in 3 weeks, you're going to have career day. if you want to succeed at speed dating and career dating, you need to go to this course about LinkedIn. You need to go to the coaching course about how to do interviews. You need to work on, how to describe yourself as a professional in your new role, etc. So we give them training. So basically, we think backwards. We have an event where we know they need the skills. We tell them you need the skills in 2-3 weeks, and in that way we get a lot of very motivated students. They immediately see, oh, it's relevant. I'm not going to stay home today. I really need to go to this LinkedIn course or CV building course or interview technique course, whatever. And in that way we get a lot of much higher participation and much higher involvement in our courses, because we make it relevant, immediately used, and it is also some kind of a challenge or a problem. Most our students have a difficulty in presenting themselves, and they need training before they go to a job interview. I don't think that's different from wherever you live. Every young student or person always has, they need to train how to present themselves and how to do interviews and stuff like that. So, but in this way, we apply these principles all the way. We're very transparent about the course. We tell them that, you do interviews. It's not a real interviews, so you can try out interviews. You can try one interview here, one interview there, try different techniques. We encourage them to try different strategies to how to make a good speed dating interviews. And the learnings from this course, the career day course, is amazing. Because we can see their journey from being, a little bit insecure, a bit not knowing very much, to being like, oh, I tried in the morning. I was very tense and I was a bit nervous, and I presented my way in this way. But in the afternoon, after having learned everything in the morning, I changed my mindset and attitude, and I did my interviews in another way, and it was great. I got so many contacts, and so the students can see the learning journey very quickly and easy, and this is how we apply these principles. So let me see where I have you there. Now I thought a quick little questions. How do you feel about? Does this feel strange to you, or do you think? Is this how you think about education? Like you have adults in the room and they have these needs. But you can put your questions in the chat if you would like to. I really asked a really strange question. Asked a question that you only could ask yesterday, but yeah. So this is, and I think this shapes a lot of how you also build in creativity, because if you have a problem-based education and the way that works, then it becomes what it helps is that it makes you have to train the skills of problem solving and creativity and all that stuff. So that's good. For me, probably quite a different insight, but I teach information literacy at the library. Cool. Yeah, I'm a law professor and lectures are always case, but yeah, I agree. I think also that the when you teach law, it also goes. It has a natural progress. The way you teach is that you case-based education, and it works really well. We have a law course as well that we did, and we redid it. It was a case-based, but it was also theory. But it was fun because we actually she started a role play. So that the actually thing was basically we redid a trial in the marketing law department and say, okay, so the students had to take different roles. They had to take, for and against and be both sides. And the teacher was not even a teacher. She was a judge, which I thought was really nice because and that made the whole course much more interactive and less theory based, but it gave them a lot of insights. But we kind of went from one level to so just from case based to role play, which was, I'm sure you do that as well, but it's really good for helping students to shape arguments and just really go deep into a subject. So perfect. All right, let's go on. I'm going to talk about some let me see how this works now. Yes. So one of the things that we do we based everything on what we called action-based learning, which is very similar to case-based learning. You can call it what you want, but we always say that we bring in the reality. Our purpose with this is to bring in reality. We want to be, I don't know, we have a saying like we are just a few inches or a few centimeters from the reality. So the school is always very close to reality, and we do that because we base basically, I would say 90% of our courses on cases. So it's learning by doing. We have real customers. They always work with a real brand, a real company, and the real problems. And the problems are always what's on the mind of communications executives at this moment. And since the communication industry changes a lot all the time, some things remain, but some things change. So we can see the difference there. And we get really up-to-date problems all the time. What we do is we help the clients write the briefs. So that is one of our biggest things. We help them to write the briefs. In the communication industry, the brief is basically what the companies, they send out to the marketing agencies and say, this is what I want. Build my brand, sell this product, help us refigure the company, the problem basically. And so we help the clients write the briefs so that they fit the thing. And we use something like a backward curriculum thinking in the way we do, which is basically we get the problem and then we look at the course targets, and then we kind of match them together. So we give students, sometimes we change some of the courses so that they match the problem and still fit the goal of the course, which makes it, since we are so flexible and we don't have faculty teachers, we can bring in specialty teachers in certain topics that the problem needs, So, for example, if we have a lot of, we need a lot of market analysis or in interview, reshaping a target group or something, we can put specialists in on that in the course to make it more aimed at the problem. But it also builds relationships, which is really good. And because the students need to get a job afterwards. And when they have real clients coming in, they practice in building a network and a contact. And so this is a huge area. And it's also, the last point is cross-branding. That is like, we as a school, Berghs, we are working with clients. Clients come to us and we come to them. And therefore, they always see us as, they come here with problems that their usual marketing agency or their in-house agency can't do. But our students are supposed to be at the forefront. They can give fresh ideas. They are a bit young and not out of respect, but they are a bit more agile and fun, and they can solve problems. So we bring in real problems, and I think that idea makes it very vital all the time. And we have, for example, we have a year-long participation program with a startup hub. So some students in our growth marketing program, they adopt a startup and they work with that startup throughout their whole school year, and in that way they get insights all the time, and they can get, and the startup can get some help, and this is we don't charge for this. This is part of the education, so we put it into courses, so it's a little bit of a win-win situation, that the companies who come here, they get some help with the problem of developing ideas, and then our students get to work with the clients. And so far, actually, we don't charge for this. And they don't charge us. So most of the time, it's just an exchange of information where we need it. So that works very well for us. And we actively look at clients. We look at new companies, but they also come to us. This is an extra job, but the way we have divided our teaching is, we have a course plan that is set and fixed, just like anyone. We have to have it done by the governmental institutions that help us. So if the course plan is fixed, but the way the content is designed is we can design the content and trim it with quite a lot of freedom within the course itself, because we are a practice school, so they want us to be, we are a school that's preparing for the work life. And our argument is very simple: work life changes, so we change to make it up to date, and we kind of build that into how we write the courses. And the case-based learning is basically a little bit of backward curriculum planning, which is really nice. You know, we put the problem first and design the course a little bit to match the problem. And they might miss out some key details, but that doesn't happen very often. Most cases actually do involve, and you have, you know, what the course is actually going to try to teach them. So the way we do it is basically we can have a larger case and divide it in different parts, so that, you know, when we design it backwards, we can also allow, if we have, I have professional courses, the participants bring in their own case. They work with what their task. When I teach professionals, like I have a course in storytelling, they all bring their own case to the course. And yeah, it makes it kind of difficult sometimes because they have big or small problems in different levels. But again, if you think about the Andragogy, they have immediate use for what we teach them. And that kind of immediacy really helps them to motivate the learners a lot. So we bring in case, and our currency, the one that we actually are charging the most for, is while solving problems, we talk about feedback all the time, and we teach our students to give feedback to themselves, and we use a peer-to-peer feedback method that's super. Yeah, so we have a peer-to-peer feedback that we teach the students how to give feedback, and it's very difficult especially in. We teach in communication issues. We teach in things that maybe there's not always a right and a wrong if you do case-based. You know, is this image better than the other one? Is this campaign smarter? Does it reach further than the other campaign? Sometimes it's very difficult to know right from wrong in this, and that is the nature of our problems, the nature of the communication industry. You know, how to build a brand, how to write a poster, or how to do a strategy for a certain target group on a Facebook advertising. I mean, it's, as you can understand, it's not a precise science almost. It's a lot of guessing and trying. But therefore, we teach our students to be creative. Feedback is super important. And we teach them, it's part of the curriculum that we design, that we always have, you know, different feedback methods. Because it's the most vital part of everything, you know. And we have a lot of methods, like, you know, and then at the back of it all comes theory. You know, maybe lots of you work with theory, and in this school we have, you know, our idea with theory is like, yeah, you should try it and you should know about it, absolutely, but it's pragmatism. What works, you know, whatever floats the boat is the most. In marketing, it's like, you know, if this works, it works. If that proves the theory, great. If it goes against the theory but still works, that's also great. So we make a lot of use of theory in this way. So we mix theory in all the courses, and our theory in marketing is a lot of models that we are trying out. And today, as you know, in modern marketing, it's a lot of user-centered design is very important, which means basically you have to know the user and interview the user and get a big, really clear image of what the user wants throughout the whole process of creativity. And that has marked a huge shift in the way designers and communication industry works. We are basically, we need, and it has to come with the digital age, because if your app doesn't work, you know, and you know, and since we communicate on digital media, every app we use, we can test if it works or if it doesn't work. So we always in connection with the user. So a lot of that is built in. That's why the case-based things are so important, that, you know, we get to learn these new methods. And just to make it, one of the things that we really are very proud of, that we are able to do, because we are a private school. You remember, we have 5 one-year programs and 2 two-year programs. So basically we have 7 programs running at the same time. So we decided we're going to toss them all together in one large group with 180 students from 7 disciplines. And throughout a school year, they do 3 different collaboration projects where they go and work together. And that, it takes a lot of planning to do, and a lot of designing of the problems. But we start the whole school year with something called CAB, which is communication according to Berghs, which basically we toss all these students together and we say, you're in a group of 8 or 7 or 8 people. Here is a communication problem. You have 3 weeks to solve it. And we brought in the client. And so they have to, without any really prior knowledge, whatever, they have to start straight away. We throw them straight into a problem solving. And then we give them the tools. We give them how to work with idea development, how to work with teams, how to, I will show you how we have a special method, talk to your team, learn how to work in teams, work with yourself. And then we teach them, of course, strategy, theory, basic stuff about communication that they need to know to solve the problem. So we start with 3 weeks. And I talked to one of my students and she said, oh yeah, the first 3 weeks, that was a social experiment. I'm like, okay, good. Very good. Maybe it was, but I think that it is a social experiment, but they had to learn how to work with themselves. And then before Christmas, after doing 1 term, we start something with Explore, and there we go a bit more theoretical. We talk about, we give them 1 brief, 1 client. We can have an online pharmacy we had last time, and the online pharmacy. And then we use, if some of you are from the economy department, you might know of Michael Porter. He is a Harvard professor who had a theory called shared value, which means that when we create or innovate business for the future, they need to have 3 legs. Good for the company, of course, make money, good for the clients, so that has some use for them, but also good for the planet or the society. And that's a very simple theoretical model, but it's a great structure for innovation. So they have to really create innovative solutions for how to sell regular products, for example. And what they do is, one example is like they work with teeth, and they realize, oh, we can do a new app that could decide if your teeth are good, and then we give the part of the profits are given to dental care in other countries. Or they found out that, oh, there's a target group that you never talked about. It's women over 50, and they go through great changes, but there's no forum, no one talks about that. So they created lots of content base for women who are going through that period. And it's like, so basically they innovate and create products in the Explore with a societal need. So we use the UN's sustainable goals and all that. So that's as a huge project. It goes over 3 weeks. It goes really fast, and they all end up with standing on stage presenting their work to the clients and to the rest of the school. So it's basically, and then the last project is the exam project. It's 6 weeks, and then they are new groups. All different disciplines have to work together, which is very difficult, but the strategy, the designers, the production leaders, they have to work together, and that's not easy at all, but they do. And then each group has a different client. So we have 22 different companies, or 25 companies or NGOs that come to school with a real brief, and we teach the students the whole process. Here's a client, and exactly they have to build all relationships with the client. They have to do all the meetings with them. They have to present something at the professional level. And we actually, the university or our school, we charge clients here. They come, they pay. So we have a very commercial, straightforward relationship. Might seem strange, but it's really good, because we have to find really good clients, and we have to negotiate whenever there's difficulties within the things. But this is what we think is like, this prepares our students for working with the real world, because this is exactly how the real world looks in communication industry. You work in teams, you work with new people every week. You have to learn how to do social skills, and you have to learn to, like, whatever team I'm getting in, I have to learn how to be creative. I have to learn how to find the best in other people. And also we learn that even though a problem can be very difficult at the on-site, they will come to a solution. And somehow when you work with the creative challenges like this, you realize, they realize also that sometimes it's the idea, sometimes it's the pitch, sometimes it's, they can learn how to see the difference. What is a good idea, what actually works, and they learn from seeing all the other ideas. And we foster that kind of, learn from each other and all that stuff. Any questions so far? Now I thought I was going to activate you, and I'm going to do a quiz. But you can answer if you want in the chat, but you don't have to answer in the chat. It's a little question that has come lately, and I don't know if you can see this camera, but this is what I think is changing teaching for the future. And it's basically, do we have any, maybe we have neuroscientists in the room. I am an amateur, so I feel I don't want to intrude on anybody's lecture, but basically the more research that comes about how the brain works, then we have to again think about how we teach, because the brain, we realize that the brain works in a certain way, and if we don't, adapt our teaching to how the brain works, basically, we need to change a little bit of how we think and how we do it. So I have relearned a lot. I would give you some examples, but I thought I'll go through a quiz, and you can answer in the chat, but I won't see the chat. So basically, you can think for yourself and see if this is relevant. And please, if you want to object or think that this is absolutely crazy what I'm saying or not, you can put on your microphone and just say, "Oh, Patrik, what is this? This is not." But I think this has a lot of influence on how we think about creativity and how to think creatively as teachers when we teach. And those go together. If we teach in a creative way, students actually become more creative. We can train their skills as well. That's how I think anyway. So let me see if you agree. You don't have to agree, it's perfectly all right. So we call it brain-friendly teaching. And here's a little quiz. So if you look at how many percent students remember from a lecture they listened to the day before. So what do you think? How much do they actually remember? If we just go to a lecture or a workshop and day after, you test them straight away. So how much in general? This is just a general thing. So there might be exceptions. So any takes on where do you think that, how much do students remember from a lecture? That means there's a plain lecture in a lecture hall or something like that where you talk for an hour or 2 or 3. Like, how much do you remember from this lecture, right? Tomorrow. That's an interesting part, right? So, strangely enough, the right answer is maybe a bit disappointingly, but it's about 5 to 10%. Basically, the brain has very little cognitive capacity. It doesn't have a memory, so unless you repeat it, if you just go listen to it without any other interventions, it just disappears if it doesn't read. And I always used to say as a teacher, it doesn't say what 5 or 10% you remember, which makes it really difficult for us who teach to say, like, so what do you remember? And if you ask students what they actually do remember, it might be totally different things, because the brain has a life of its own. It needs to be lazy and remember things, So from this lecture, maybe you remember, my glasses or the brick wall that I showed you more than you remember the content. The basic things we don't know. So we need to, and this is something that we should know about, that the brain has, and this is another a fact I found yesterday, and that 78% of learning is lost in the first 4 hours, 95% is gone within 3 months. Basically, people forget and we forget, and that's okay. But if we know this, how can we decrease that? How can we make it so that people remember more? This basically means just giving a lecture isn't enough unless we give them repetition, writing, cases, etc. I know you probably know this is not news to you, but it's kind of interesting. I struggle with this here when I'll tell my colleagues and teachers, like, yeah, but you put 2 slides in a lecture about a topic, and you think that you can't demand that no one will remember it unless you actually enforce it, repeat it, follow up, discuss it. It doesn't work. Just giving people information, sending it to them, is not a very effective way of learning. So that's basically my conclusion. And the brain science have shown this, that we have no matter how smart we are, our cognitive ability is actually a little bit smaller than we think. And then here's another question. I'm sorry about the misspelling there. How does the brain actually store information? I mean, where do we store? Where is information stored? Is it in our internal hard drive? Here, the frontal lobe that controls things, or is it in neural links that just like in chaotic way mix facts, emotions, experiences, and sensical information, or is it in the gray cell matter? Now, I don't know what you think, or if the thing is in that, but is there actually, where is memory actually stored? I think we don't know the answer to that question totally yet, but if you look at when learning is formed and how teaching is formed and how we learn, is actually the memory is not stored in one particular place. It's actually built within connections between different parts of the brain. So a memory is actually created from different sources, and the network in the brain is called the connectome. So, for example, if you look at, we have a law professor there, if you look at witnesses who are coming back and talking about their experiences from before, there is no precise memory of that thing. They have the brain, as it works, has to put an image of the place where something happened and the emotional feeling that I had before, and memories are actually recreated in the brain, which means basically reliving these networks. So when you teach, just giving them information without experience makes learning less sticky. So this is something that we can learn. That's why the case-based learning or action-based learning is so much easier. If you have a frustrating experience of working with an impossible team to solve a wicked problem that and you didn't sleep for 2 nights because you didn't understand, or you had to read all, that's when learning actually sticks. That's when learning happens. So the more difficult we make it for our students in a good way, and difficult in terms of like not just reading a lot of information and memorizing it, that's difficult, but actually using formulas and theory in real life that creates these connections. So that's how so basically all our neural network is, our memories are constructed of more just networks, where all the information is connected. And that's really interesting when it comes to teaching and creativity, because creativity has to have all these experiences that they link together with theory, link together with images, link together with things we have heard. So this is kind of interesting. So, and here's another question, also based on this neuroscience. So what increases motivation in students the most, do you think? This is not maybe a super good quiz, but I mean, are they motivated by grades? I'm sorry about the numbers here. I said they're wrong. I'm so sorry. So this would be 1, 2, 3. Meaningfulness or great lectures? So what do you think is, and we do have a problem here with this, because we have really good lecturers here who come in and they get really high grades. And sometimes they motivate students, but they inspire them. But I'm not sure. So if you look at what the brain says, or what the brain works, or what it's neuroscience says, of course the right answer is meaningfulness, which means basically for students the purpose and the goals and the relevance, there are the fundamental building blocks of creating meaningfulness, and that drives motivation. And this goes back to what students need. They need to understand why they're learning these things. They need to see the effect of it, and they need to do that. And this is something that that's why we do case-based learning. We are. It's not easy, but we get what we want. Everyone wants. If you're a teacher, you want students who are motivated, who are curious, who ask you questions, who are like, yeah, good, thank you. After that lecture, I really thought about this. That's what we want. We want these inspired, fun, great, information-seeking, thriving students. That's what we want. So we have to be transparent, and grades enough or great lectures doesn't help. We need to involve them and give them goals and give them relevance. That's how we build meaningfulness. Let's see, I think here's a very simple question. Brain science again. Sometimes we can start a lecture with some great statements, but actually what happens if we start questions is like, what is creativity?
Can I have one question, please?
Yes.
About the meaningfulness.
Yes.
I just want to ask, how do you check what has a meaning for a student? How do you do these checkups for what has a meaning? Because you can think what has a meaning, for example, in what you think has a meaning, but how do you make these checkups?
Yeah, that's very good. Good question. Thank you. When I teach, especially when I teach adults nowadays, this has happened just in the last year. I actually, I'm very transparent in my teaching, and I tell them, this is why I talk about, this is the purpose of the lecture. This is the thing of it. So the more I talk about it, then the more I get, then I do it. Then when I talk about, and I'm transparent about my purpose and talk about the goals with the students. I mean, it sounds a bit silly, but I mean, I have adults, right, in the room, and they are professionals, but I teach them that today we're going to talk about this, and the why I talk about this is because of this, and the reason is that. So it starts with me as a teacher telling them that meaningfulness, and then how I check it with the students. Well, we have to do interviews and talks, and we put a lot of what I'm trying to do is to get all our students to say, we have a lecture, and the last lesson should always be a reflection lecture. We should always talk and reflect with the students of where they are, how they felt, and how they can use. So we have to have a little bit of reflection moment at the end of every course, because we need to just ask students questions. And I'm not saying we're perfect with this, but sometimes, we just teach the course, and every lecture is gold, and we have a lot of difficulty. We need to teach everything. There's so much they need to learn, but we forget to ask them and have this reflection on the actual learning and then the actual result. So we, discussions and interviews with students is super important. And I'm not saying this is done in any way perfectly here. I teach students, but my colleagues, it's difficult every time. I'm not sure they do it the right way. So, but we do have with interactions with students. You can do online surveys, or you can actually talk to them. But it starts with you. If you are transparent with the purpose and goals, you will get much better answers. So how did you find the course? Then they will tell you. So it's a dialogue. Okay, we go on, but here's a little easy question for you about brain science. And I will talk about the personal development in a while. You can talk about it. So if you start a talk with a question, you start your thing with a dilemma or a problem, what happens? Well, the increase of dopamine in the brain increases automatically, because people get curious, they start thinking, mapping out being or actually you risk that they learn the wrong thing, because if they don't know the answer, they will feel like they failed. Or if you do, I'm sorry about the wrong spelling here again, speculation and guessing takes away time from lecture. This is a very simple question, but it's, again, I think it's just, if you talk about brain science, it just says, if you start with a question and every time you go, the moment the student starts looking for information, you can see an increase in the brain of activity, of neural activity. But if you come and start with a statement and just give them facts, there's less level. The more the brain has to be challenged all the time in a lecture, the more it wakes up and it connects and it thinks. So the more questions you ask, the more fun it is. So that's why, for example, I made a quiz, because hopefully that made you activate the thing. And it doesn't matter if you answer right or wrong. The most important thing is, like, you have to think. And the more you activate the brain, the more open students will be for learning. And this is just basically, brain chemistry. So I thought that would, make your lectures more interactive. I start with questions, start with things. It just makes students more activated, and learning happens in a better way. Okay, I have only a few minutes left. I'm going to just show you something that is one of the things that we really like, that helps creativity, I hope. But it's yeah, I'll show you something else very, very simple about the brain and everything. It's like when we teach, this is I gave a course yesterday, and I gave a 3-day course in storytelling, and I decided that I'm going to use the wall and basically visualize for them everything that they learn. So we put up, this is my first initial exercise. These are 4 or 5 different exercises where they have to, every student have to put up what they're learning and what they're working on the wall. And in the end, I will have, the whole course, of that is a week's course, will be visualized on one wall, and then they can take photos. So then they have actually gone up and put something up on the wall, and we can all go read it. And the good thing is that here's the beginning. This is what they had their goals and the purpose, what they knew about the topic before. So when we come to the end of the wall, I will send them back and say, okay, this is what you wrote in the beginning. How does that compare to what we have now learned? It's a very simple method. It's not so special, but it's kind of fun to make it visual. Okay, so here's one of our things that we work a lot with. You talk about motivation and how to get students out. We are trying to, we know that they need help to be able to deal with the stress, the student stress. They need to be able to deal with students with learning difficulties. They need to, working in a group is very difficult. I used to tell my students that, they go to nursery here in Sweden from the age of 2 years old. They've been in groups. They still don't know how to work in groups. So we have to work with that all the time and say, how do you work in groups? How do you solve it? And we have one very simple method that we do work, and that we teach them, and it has worked very good. So in every project they do, they have to start with, let me see here, they have to start with what we call the project and the postject. And it's a very simple exercise that you start filling up yourself. So first you start with the ones that says I. You just sit down for yourself in the group and you write what drives me, what are my strengths, what do I need to develop, what are my fears, what are my skills, what do I want to learn with the project, what do I need from the team to shine. So every individual, let's say the team is about 5 to 10 people, every individual has to write this, and we help them in the beginning to make this very, very scheduled. And then they have to go back to the team. Everyone has to say in their turn, answer these questions. And this could also be very practical. We have students with children, they need to leave early. We have children with learning disabilities and say, well, I can't, I can't sit longer than. So they learn how to talk about themselves and their needs. And in this way, and then when we have done the I thing, which they have to train about, they do we the group. So now we are a group. So what are we going to do? How hard do we want to work? How can we measure success? Which is very interesting. What are the strengths of the group? What's risks and challenges? And how will we handle those? So these are, and what we do is in all the collaboration projects, and we have 3 big ones, then we make sure that they get time to sit down and do this at the onset or at the end of every project. And then in the middle, when they just work in their classworks, we also try and every time you do it, it goes quicker. I mean, in the beginning, it takes 2-3 hours, but if you've done this a couple of times, you know yourself, you know how to describe yourself to a stranger, and you can write about these things. And we find this is very simple, but it actually works really well. I mean, I had students that come up yesterday and say, oh my God, I have a project. I need to figure out, I got so mad at this person who did this and that. I was like, well, okay, good. Just do the post. If you're just transparent and learn how to talk about problems, your collaboration and your creativity and your climate and so will work much better. So this is one thing. It's very simple, but we find that when I went to university in Sweden, in Stockholm, no one ever talked about this. No one talked about, it doesn't matter what subject I'm working with. I have to work with people in a group, and we need to be transparent to talk about how we're going to work together. So, and then here's a pilot project I'm doing right now. This is, I haven't done it yet. I'm going to try it out. This is I talked about the inner development goals, which is an initiative, and I think that it's a nice initiative, but it's very abstract. So I want to make it very concrete. I want to make it a tool. So I'm going to take a pilot, 10 students, and I'm going to do, I invented something called scorecard. It's just basically, it's a self-assessment tool that often used in healthcare, where you can basically say, in healthcare, you measure pain that way. You can't measure how much pain a patient feels. You have to ask them, so on a scale 1 to 10, how much is this today? This patient says 7. Okay, good. Yesterday it was 8. What did we do to change it? So basically, I'm going to make the students, during a 3-week project, map out every day one skill and how it develops. And all we're going to do is just make it forms a curve here in the end. Basically, you will see how, for example, let's take presence. How presence have you been in your project? And it will be a curve. And then I will talk to the students once a week. Just say, so why does your curve look like it was? What can you do to improve it? What have others done to improve it? So this is just a tool I have to start working with the personal skills and track them. And we're going to do a physical one, like an actual brochure that they're going to fill up, and we're going to do a digital test. And if this works, we're going to do it in all our projects. So this is just one way how that's my luxury. I promise you. Look, I can go into the course and get us some voluntary students to work with a self-tracking score, and they have to define the skill. They have to define what they mean by inner compass. They have to define where they want to go with it, and so it's very much. And the purpose of this is like, if I measure myself and I see that my self-awareness is really low, then I have to ask myself a question: why is it so low? And the next question is, what can I do to be more self-aware? And that, I hope, will motivate learning about yourself. I'm not going to tell them how they're going to do it. I just want them to discover and be aware of, oh, I need to learn more about this. And that's how I hope that they will motivate them to develop these inner human skills that in the end, I think are so important to our students. And I can gladly share this with you. This is my first pilot. This is my sketch. It's not done yet, and it's in Swedish and everything, but but I'm going to try it out. And if this works, I would love to share it and get a pilot with you guys, maybe. How about that? That would be fun. Well, how do you check what has a meaning to the students? Well, anyway, so any thoughts about this and reflections? Time is out.
Oh, very good. This is very interesting, and I would be very interested in make this experiment also. I'm trying with surveys.
Yeah.
And I am trying before the lecture. I'm trying with a Mentimeter I always. And after every lecture, I always put a question at the end on the Mentimeter. Yeah. How do you feel? Yeah. Do you want to ask me something more? And like this stuff. And then sometimes I get, we are exhausted, or it was fun. Everyone is writing something different, but I try. And then afterwards, I do a survey, and I let them that it is anonymous, and they can write everything what they want.
Yeah.
And I tried also this year a new method where I divided 80 students in 2 groups, in 2 groups, and every group has their own project to do, and they have to because every year I gave them a possibility. There are 2 or 3 or 5 students in a group, but now I am making an experience what it will be when there are 40 students in one group.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's big. Well,
Yeah.
you know, I can share these slides with you, but again, you know, I think we talk about creativity and personal development. It's just like the more you get students to talk, we do lots of surveys too. And let me tell you what we did last quickly, but we do a lot of surveys, but our students don't want to fill in surveys after a while. They get a bit bored, you know. And so there again, there's no motivation for them to write feedback. And so I asked my colleagues, so why do you think that is? How can you increase the motivation to write surveys? Because they're so essential to us. But then I also discovered that my colleagues, you know, very seldom give feedback to the students about their feedback. You know, so we need to talk to this. We need to read I read the conclusion of this course. Bring it back to the class and say, wow, you know, I read all these comments about this course. That's very interesting. Can we talk about, and then you choose one or two topics, because it's again, then you have this transparency that they give feedback to you, but you have to give them feedback that you have read what they have said and actually are doing something or acting on it. And I realized that my colleagues, they were horrible at that. They didn't do that. So we had to do a training course where we did it. We did a role play course where they had to give feedback on feedback. You know what I mean? It sounds maybe overcomplicated, but it's actually it was the best relevant experience, I thought, because they were they were very defensive. They were like, oh, you know, why are you complaining about this? And it was like, so I said, no. You can't be defensive with students. You have to create dialogue with students. And you have to be curious about why they think that course was interesting or good or not good in a certain sense. And if you are curious, they will feel this kind of interaction, and it will become meaningful for them. You know, so that's how we'll see. We're working a lot on getting up the numbers. You know, if we ask for them for feedback, we have to give them back feedback as well. So. But the more transparent we are, the more we create meaningfulness, and the more we follow the theories that I talked about, the more we are actually in line with how they want to be treated, like students. You know, we listen to them, and they feel we listen to them, etc. So, I think that our time is over, right? So I just don't want to take your time more than this. Any last questions or think that you have to ask or think? I can send some information, and I will. If you want to make a pilot with this scorecard in the development goals, I will gladly share it with you, because I think I love pilots and experiments.
So I don't see any questions. So dear participants, be quick.
Yes.
And to you, Patrik, thank you really for this presentation of creativity from the first hand, and for reminding us regarding the activities that are easily forgotten in a hurry with all other academic duties. So I'm sure we all got something to think about.
Good. Well, I wish you very luck, and thank you so much for hope. I hope it was meaning and relevant, and knowing that you will only remember 5-10%. I hope you remember the right 5-10%, which is very difficult to know. But I think that's a part of our profession. It's like we never know what sticks, right? That's also part of our the way we work. So, and I think that you are in the same. I think you have more smarter, tested lots of more solutions than I have. So I would probably have a lot to learn from you as well. The next time I'll ask Miro, I will come down. Okay, we can have another scene. Okay. I can learn something.
Perfect.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, and big greetings to Stockholm.
I will. Thank you so much.